Come on, Ian, man. Come on. Thank you very much for that. I can take it from here, Mr. Right. People, Deluded, I'm back again. Big up to you lot on YouTube. Please make sure you're smashing the like button. And big up to you lot on whatever platform you're watching. Make sure you're joining the conversation. Now, Arsenal have slightly just over 24 hours. But really and truly, we've got 24 hours to do a madness. Now, whether that is, we've been linked with Kingsley Coleman, you know, Aderinga of Brighton, whether that is Ademola Lookman. I'm not going to lie to you. I know it's shameless, people, but I looked online. Anthony Martial still a free agent. Desperation settings, people. You know, we all love Nico Williams. That's probably unlikely. Whether it's them kind of names or it's the Sterlings, the Mudriks, the Rashfords, the Sanchos, people that have a foot out of their club's door, don't know how we do it. We know we need to do it. Or if it's a young emerging talent. Now, I always say I'll reserve judgment until the closing, you know, part of the window. And, you know, we've got just over 24 hours. I don't know if I'm disappointed or not. I'm slightly not disappointed because I don't know what's to come. I'm disappointed because I don't feel, again, if we've tried to sign players, that's great. We've tried to win the league. That doesn't necessarily mean there's anything to praise. It's evident what Arsenal need. Now, we needed a midfielder. Mikel Merino's through the door. It took a while, but he's there. Obviously, Nico Williams is another case, but where Calafiori and Merino are concerned, we've dealt with those on the left-hand side. We tried to get Sesko, so the club clearly were looking at a striker if they tick all boxes. Fair enough, you can't see value for money on the market. We keep it moving. Now, where an inside forward is concerned, whether that's someone to deputise and rotate in for Saka, probably someone that goes on the left-hand side. I would love someone that has strong numbers, like how you've got Saka doing his thing on the right, someone on the left, you've got Kai Havertz. It's not the same, but indirectly mimics what Liverpool had with obviously Firmino, Mane and Mohamed Salah. And I think it's a big missed opportunity if we don't get a versatile attacker. You know, you look at Fabio Vieira, Emil Smith-Rowe, potentially Reece Nelson and Smith-Rowe, Fabio Vieira, Nelson, and Nketiah. Three of those have left. Nelson could still leave. Whether we let him go without bringing a body in is another thing. Now, these players were all on the peripheral of things where Arsenal's first team was concerned, and we didn't necessarily need them, to be respectful to them. But we don't have the bodies. You know, Mikel Arteta has said we've got one of the smallest squads in the last few weeks and months. They said they sat there in March and April and planned things. Everybody can see another attacker takes us to another level. Yes, we got 91 goals and things of that ilk. But how do we cross the 100 barrier? You know, I think the squad has enough to do it for the majority of the season. But where you look at that this December period, turning up some defeats into draws, turning some draws into victories, everything counts. And we ran it to the last day of the season with City. Where would we have been had we have won? So we're in problems in that. And if the window ends with technically David Raya becoming a permanent transfer, obviously Calafiori coming through the door, Mikel Merino, and I think we've done okay with outgoings. I know you look at we'll get into it, but 25 million for Aaron Ramsdale. A big up to you lot who watched my video where I released it yesterday, where I spoke about Aaron Ramsdale. Say what you want about David Raya making Aaron Ramsdale stop drop. Simple question. And I know he's been on the bench and clubs are going to leverage that. But simple question. When Aaron Ramsdale signed for Arsenal Football Club to now, has his stock risen? Has he become a better player? Why are we making a loss? So it just feels like when you look at the Eddie Nketiah deal, everybody had a lot to say about Edu and transfers anyways. The Marseille thing, people are looking at him crazy. Nottingham Forest, that didn't work out. It looks like we're getting decent money from Palace. It just feels like we do one good thing and then a bit of an iffy one. But if the window ended right now with what we've done, I think we're stronger per se, but are we really? Provided Mikel Merino and Calafiori go on to be permanent fixtures in the team, I think they add something, but I think we're missing something to get over the line. We got 91 goals. A lot of them came from set pieces, which keep that up. There was a lot of teams that we were battering. You know, we hit Chelsea for 5. There was a point last season where we're just turning up and, you know, battering teams. So you look at the games, the games those goals came in, right? You look at who actually got our goals. When you break it down, I like what Kai Havertz is doing. He's one of the first names on the team sheet. But is it fair to Kai to expect him to do it for the 38-game period? He done it for half a year. Trossard's rotated in and out of the side. I don't know if he's going to get double figures. Martinelli needs to return back to what he's doing. Gabriel Jesus is still injured. Saka brings the numbers. When you start to peel it back, I do think we overrate the need for a striker, but I don't think it's overstated. I do think we need that. So we've addressed the spine, I guess. You know, the left-hand side were very lopsided. We had a lot of injuries and a lot of other factors. But if the window ends at the moment, would I say it's a missed opportunity? For me, I believe it is really. And I think worst case scenario for me personally, it will be another season that kind of mimics the last two for me that have gone in the sense of before I look at what Manchester City done or haven't done or what they have or don't have, I think we've shot ourselves in the foot. I don't think we've aggressively done things. And, we tried only go so far. I understand. I don't want Arsenal to sign players for the sake of signing players if they can't take us to another level. But if we try to win a game of football and we lose, there's question marks. If we try to sign players and we don't, there's question marks. And again, it's an issue. Now, you'd imagine we bring in a keeper or two, depending on where you read. But if we don't get another attacker, it's not that I'm nervous, but I'm nervous here, man. I'm really, really nervous, man. So, yeah, that's the end of my rant, man. Said RIP, the Deluded Gooner channel, Jesus injury, goodbye. Jesus, hope you get the 15 goals, man. I can only imagine how you Arsenal fans feel. You are genuinely a striker away from competing on all fronts. A Victor Osimhen would be a title decider for you. I mean, if you could get me another striker, and me, to go with Kai Havertz doing his thing, you've got another number 9 that can get you 20 league goals. That's great. I'm more leaning towards, like, if you offered me Victor Osimhen or Nico Williams, I know I'm dream chasing. I know it's recency bias because obviously the Euros. I'm probably going to lean towards Nico Williams if I'm honest. If I'm completely honest with you, I like Kai Havertz. I don't like the rhetoric from some Arsenal fans that we can't sign a striker because what's going to happen to Kai Havertz? That's nonsense. If Kai keeps doing what he's doing, it doesn't matter who we signed. And Sesko didn't happen, but if Sesko wanted to join us and we activated his release clause, there's a question mark to have there. So I do agree with you. I do think when you look through the side, it's just about fine tuning. I think in the next 12 months, I think we've got to kind of fix up midfield. Ideally, you want Ethan to keep growing and maybe Miles Lewis-Skelly to get in the mix there. You probably want someone that can deputize for Odegaard if something happens there. You've got Declan Rice, you've got Mikel Merino, Jorginho and Partey might not be here next season. Probably needed 2 midfielders to marry that in there and a forward, man. So I agree with you. I think in terms of the squad that's here already, I think we're improving the boys. Everything is improving year in, year out. I know people don't want to hear that, but that's as vital as bringing in signings. But I do think we need something extra, man. Now, how far does that go? I don't know. Like, how vexed can I get or not vexed can I really go with it? Because ultimately, I can't decide anything. The OD, it's so frustrating. We've been talking about bringing an attacking player for the longest time, and we're still here with the same chat. I wish there was something more I could say there, man. And you are right. And again, I guess I don't know what the club tried to do or didn't do. I don't know all of the moving parts. But at the end of the day, we knew what we was coming into this. I think we're doing all right in terms of outgoings, but again, the window isn't shut yet, but simple question. Are we stronger than we was last season? Like, are we dramatically stronger? I believe yes, and I believe no. I think Calafiori gives us great strength in depth. Defensive options, I think we're quite cool. Mikel Merino, on the basis of, I expect you to be fit for the majority of the season, something you can't say for Partey, great. But once you look beyond it, is our depth stronger? No. Do we have any difference makers at the club? Additional difference makers, potentially not in the attacking positions. And can we, you take a couple of any team could say this, but you take a couple of those individuals out of Arsenal, even on to degree right now, Kai Havertz is out of it. Let's assume Saka's out of it. You move Odegaard out. Anything happens to Declan Rice or Mikel Merino, you're in issues, really, if I'm honest with you. And that's before we get into the goalkeeper stuff, which I do think will sign a keeper or two, but you get the point. Shout, my guy, DS. And keep your thoughts coming, James. Big up yourselves. As it stands, I rate the window a 7 out of 10. I guess I see where you're coming from because I'd give it a 6. I'd give it a 6, man. I think there's been, I think Ricardo Calafiori, 20 out of 10 signing. I think I'm very excited about that. Mikel Merino, I can't speak for everyone. I know he's not a sexy sort of player and he didn't cost 100 odd million. I'm not saying he's going to make the difference, but I think that's a 10 out of 10 signing. I'm happy with him. I'm happy with both of those because it means we can get some stability on the left. Obviously, I look at Mikel Merino, people say he's 28, but, there's a sense of urgency. He's 28. You've got probably 4 or 5 years to achieve something. You know how to play it as an 8 and a 6. I like that signing. I like Calafiori signing. David Raya, I'm not really going to count that. Yes, it does count. It is a permanent signing, but it don't really count. We all knew last summer that was going to be a thing. Outgoings, fair enough. Top money for Eddie Nketiah. Nuno Tavares is permanently gone. I guess Fabio Vieira did need to go and play football. Got decent money for Smith Rowe considering the injury he had. Not really happy with 18 million for Aaron Ramsdale and 25 million plus add-ons. Again, he hasn't been playing. There isn't necessarily a market. There's big wages, but considering the fact of, David Raya is the only reason Aaron Ramsdale looks a shadow of his former self because Raya's come in, he's done really well. It didn't look like we needed a goalie, but we went and got one. that Ramsdale is not a worse keeper than when we signed him. He got PFA nominees and all of these kind of things. At one point, he probably was on the cusp of playing for England on a regular basis. So I'm not really happy with that. But generally, the outgoings have been okay. You know, Tierney's still here. Lokonga is an option rather than an obligation. Obviously, he did all right with a couple of the young players. But other than that, you know, the outgoings have been better than expected. They definitely could be a lot better. But for me, it's a 6, considering the last 2 years and running it down to the last window, last day of the season. And again, the window wasn't shut, but I would have loved to have been sitting here and we've got that inside forward, maybe a striker. Again, I would have loved a striker and a winger. Naive to assume both are coming through, but it would have been lovely to have another. If they got another versatile attacker, or you know what, whether they got a winger or a striker, Calafiori comes in, obviously Mikel Merino, sorting out the goalie stuff, and then obviously getting rid of who you need to get rid of. I'd probably give it a 9. Like, it just feels like we've made 10 steps forward, but also 10 steps back. So it's almost like we're kind of in the same territory we was. And if I'm honest with you, last season, obviously Timber's injury was a spanner in the works. David Raya went on to show how good he is. Everyone was happy with Declan Rice. Kai Havertz, you know, his fortunes changed when he went up front. So all of the signings last summer did well. And to be fair, all of the signings we made in the last 2 years have, right? But I feel myself finding how I was last summer in that, yeah, there were some good movements, but it just feels like there's a lot more to be done. A lot's an exaggeration, but you get the point. Lookman ready. I'm in the process of doing a video about him. I mean, he's contracted until 2026. We've been linked with him. It's now or never. I don't think the club are, keyword, 100% convinced in Ademola Lookman. I think there's admiration. I think I'm not 100% convinced. I like him a lot, man. Obviously, he's 26. He's been around the block, been at Fulham, been at Everton. You know, almost didn't become a footballer. Had to come from non-league / Charlton, testing time at Leipzig. He's had a lot of trials and tribulations, a theme that you've seen with a lot of the players that we've recruited in the last few years. But I must admit, is there a Serie A tax? Like, because I'm not dissing the Serie A league, but it does look like a lot of attackers who struggle to score goals on a consistent basis, or players that are considered past it, they go to Serie A and they have strong, very strong goal scoring seasons. But I'm having Lookman, man. Obviously, he can play on the left as well as the right. I know he plays for Nigeria at international level, but owing to where he was born, if I'm correct, in England, he goes down as homegrown. So, yeah, man. Shout my guy Mac. Big up DG. As much as I'd love Arsenal to sign a striker this window, I think they were going to regret not doing so and overpay for someone in January. I hope I'm not wrong, but boy, and that's a good point on the basis of January. Did a team, or what does the club better yet, reckon we've got enough until January? Which in theory you do, but in reality, there's going to come a point where we're playing twice every 7 days. And we did do it for the majority of last season, but we're playing twice every week, three games in 10 days. Obviously, the more injuries you get, the more that the fit players have to play and you're running them into the ground. We all know we're treading very carefully with that. There's a lot of football to be played, bearing in mind there's 2 extra fixtures in the Champions League. You know, you've got the FA Cup to come in the start of January. There's a lot of football and it takes a lot out of you, really. So do we have enough? And as we all know, January in itself is a reactionary market. Nobody really wants to buy or sell in January purely on the basis of you would have done everything in the summer. You're relying on players that probably want to deal with their current situations where they're not playing enough, players that deals are running down, so on and so forth. And assuming the window stays like this, someone like Kivior, I don't know how much football Kivior is going to play, you know. I wouldn't mind selling Kivior if it brings in finances to invest in other areas. But same way, I'd rather keep him, if I'm honest with you, just to be a body. It's harsh for Kivior. If you get football and you take your chance, do your thing, really. But I don't see you playing too much. But I would like us to have the luxury of having some bodies. But even someone like him, if you don't get a move now, are you pushing for that in January? And even that, with the club, even if you don't play enough, the club might let you go. But would you really want him to leave? Because you kind of betting on when you get to January, that's your squad until May, really. That's everyone you're betting on. So let's hope the club can prove us wrong. Arteta has to take some of the blame about not signing a striker. Let's be honest. If he goes to Edu, I want a striker. Edu would get him one. Maybe he's happy with that. He's got. And it's true. But at the same time, we don't know everything. Arteta could be saying, I need X, Y, and Z. And Edu's not getting it done. Edu could be saying, I've got this deal line, that deal line. And Arteta's not convinced on the players, if I'm honest with you. Either way, the club make a big song and dance about collaboration. So for me, in the same way, if we win and we do great things, everybody takes responsibility. I'm not really here for who did what and what not. When things go negative, being signing players, all of you take responsibility for such because you knew what you needed to do. They said they had the meeting in March and April, so you knew what the market was. You knew about Copa America and the Euros, and you knew some players that might become available. Suddenly they're not available anymore. Certain players that are not available become available. You knew that there might be some players that want to get out of their current situation. The Sterlings, the Mudriks, João Felix. I'm not saying to sign these players, but those kind of ones. Do you go for the young emerging kind of more raw talents? I don't know. I do think it's unacceptable to not bring in another attacker. I get it. We trust the squad, and if players want to leave, they want to leave. But bodies, man, bodies. Someone like Eddie Nketiah, you might not play for the majority of the 38-game season, but that might be a period where there's 3 to 4 games. You come in, you score a winner in one of those, that gets us 3 points, and that's a vital 3 points in relation to winning the league. I don't know, man, but everybody has to take responsibility for such. Smash the like button if you haven't, and keep your thoughts coming. We'll get into everything in a sec. Smith Rowe, Vieira, and Nketiah are gone. Nelson's still here, and Jesus picked up the normal injury. Would be really disappointed if we don't get an attacking player. We'll be tempting fate with injuries. And Arteta said that himself, more so when referring to the defenders. But logically speaking, if you're saying that about the defense, you have to say that about the attackers. He literally said in the last 2 years, we've done very well with Saliba, Gabriel, and Benjamin White. As we all know, Saliba and Benjamin White last season were playing with Knox. I very much doubt, I'm no Premier League man or any of that stuff, people, but I genuinely think once we get to the end of September, October, and so on, there's very little players in that Premier League, the ones that are playing for their clubs on a consistent basis, that aren't playing with some little knock or niggle or injury, and we all know that counts for our team as well. So we're gonna have to keep it moving in that regard. We'll be tempting fate, man, and realistically, the best ability you could have is being available. Now, I don't want to be critical, but you look through that squad, who would you describe as durable? Obviously, there's more players than I'm going to name here. And anyone can get injured. I'm not going to kill a player for getting injured. It's an industry hazard. Kai Havertz, you'd expect him to be fit for the majority of the season. Martin Odegaard, the same. Benjamin White, Bukayo Saka, the same. Who else is there? He ain't kicked a ball for Arsenal, but Mikel Merino, he's played over 40 odd times in the last few years. So I think he's going to be up there. I'd expect Martinelli and Trossard to be there, even though they get 1-2 knocks. I'd expect them to be there. And obviously, Benjamin White, Gabriel Saliba, David Raya, and whoever is our second and third choice goalkeepers. Zinni picks up knocks. Tommy picks up knocks. Jorginho picks up knocks. Partey, do we need to really go into that? Gabriel Jesus, do we need to go into that? And there's probably even Reece Nelson picks up a lot of knocks. Fabio Vieira picked up a lot of knocks. Kivior is a bit mixed, really. He will be fit, but then again, we're playing 38 Premier League games. You've got 2 extra ones in the champs, provided that's in the group stage. That's the minimum fulfillment for us. If we go to where we want to go, the semis and the finals and FA Cup finals and League Cup finals and that, do we have the squad? Now, again, I guess they're betting that we have, but boy, as a fan, it's a bit nervy. Shout out yourself, Graham. Afternoon, DG. AFTV reporting interest in Lewis Openda. I wouldn't be against bringing him in to add depth. Probably need a winger also. I mean, my man never left in it, Sesko, so he could. I like Openda, but maybe I'm not really on the striker thing as much, if I'm honest with you. I like Openda, but is he going to... I think he'd add something, and you could make a case of, because I have said it before, do you get someone that I think Sesko would have been in hindsight? I even think someone like we've been linked with Calvert-Lewin. Do you get someone who's more of a rotation option striker that doesn't necessarily disrupt Kai Havertz and the front three? They can come in and do a job. They can be rotated in and out. I would love us to go for Isaac, but that's not going to happen. So do you bring a blockbuster one? I must admit, I didn't think a striker was going to happen because I didn't think Arsenal was going to, spend the money required to get a striker day, and us lot probably won't. So I'm more switched on to an inside forward. Now, Nico Williams didn't happen. Pedro Neto didn't happen. I think us Arsenal fans are getting into that dangerous territory where you look at Martial, Rashford, Sancho, Sterling, Mudryk. I wouldn't be against these guys in theory, and it's better than nothing. But I do think some of us Arsenal fans get in this trap of, just because of what you've seen with Kai Havertz is very different, but Odegaard being given a home at this club. Any player that needs a bit of love or they're disillusioned that their current employers, we just assume Mikel Arteta can sign them and work miracles, in which he can, but the man's human. Shout to yourself, Geezer, as well, man. I'm really enjoying you lot's conversation. Arteta are about to drop 30 mil for a second goalkeeper. Your thoughts, DG? Boy, I don't know what to say, man. Like, I get it, because on one hand, I love the fact that we're one of the best defensive sides in world football and in the Prem, but it seems like every year we're signing goalies and defenders and all of these kind of things. We've just got a centre midfielder now. Great. Can we sign some attackers? Now, I get it. Like, we need quality, but there's a real reluctance. And as much as I can sit here and say, I'm not really convinced on every player, I don't want to sign players for the sake of it. It's become evidently clear for the last few years what Arsenal need to do. You man got scouts. You got probably the best scouting software to assess targets. So how far does it go? I know I don't really care about other clubs apart from my own, but other clubs probably have the same talking points we have. They're making it happen. We need to. We should not sign a keeper too expensive. Keepers are not rotated so often. I hear that, but is 20 to 30 million really expensive on a goalkeeper, or are we frustrated because we hear talk about not necessarily having the budget and we're signing the keeper? I hear it, but yeah, man. I mean, my man's 23. DJ, I think we're presently a weaker squad. What say you? As I said earlier, it's a difficult one. I think it's the same. Like, because on one hand, I don't look at the squad and think, raw, like, we're better in terms of personnel than we was last year, excluding the defense. But then I look at Mikel, Merino and California and think, they bring something. They ain't kicked a ball for us. Well, California has, but you get where I'm going. I don't really believe that. Like, I think it's a sideways step, and then you factor in the players that were on the peripheral that left, and just in terms of bodies, we are weaker. So I guess we are 7. I give it a 5. I give it a 6 for me, man. I give it a 6. It just feels like a sideways step, if I'm honest. I think the window has been a 5. An attacking option puts us to a 7, in my opinion. We ain't getting a striker. Well, go on, my guy. Out of Gyökeres, Osimhen, and Tony, who'd be your ideal striker? My bias would say Osimhen. I think all in all, I think Gyökeres would be a great fit. I think Gyökeres would be a good fit. I actually think Tony would be decent for this football club. So I'd say Gyökeres, man. If you feel Lookman's goal record is bad because he's in Serie A, what about Osimhen? And that's a good point. But I mean, he's done it in France as well as Germany as well. Like, he's played in those leagues. You are right. But that's the thing I'm thinking about all of these Serie A players. So that does extend to Osimhen. You're right. How can we get rid of Smith Rowe, Nketiah, and Fabio not getting an attacker? It doesn't make sense. And again, these guys were on the peripheral, but that's what I'm saying. It doesn't make sense. Now, Arteta and Edu, they know more about football than us, but it doesn't make sense. So surely something arrives. Whether what arrives at this football club is what we want, it's like getting a Christmas present. You open it and it's Lynx Africa, or you go into your freezer, you think it's ice cream, and then it's rice and chicken or rice. It's not exactly what you wanted, but there's got to be something arriving, man. Our transfer window is closed already, DJ. I don't see any players coming in. I think we'll sign a goalie. DJ, any chance on Kingsley Coleman? You'd imagine Bayern Munich are somewhat interested in listening to offers. It seems like quite a few of their players have been linked with moves. I think it's fair to say the Sane thing's gone. Kingsley Coleman looks like a loan could be tied up. Gnabry's apparently available. Goretzka's available. Kimmich's contract is still there. Fair as it feels like we're signing in stages, which the cons outweigh the pros, but I think it's purely to manage the wage bill problem. And that's true. But then someone made a great point. And of course, you can't just look at it from a football perspective. And I'm not an accountant. I care about football. I don't really care about numbers, but you have to consider that. Someone made a good point. And someone said, if we're needing to win a game or Saka's injured, Profit can't play. Sustainability can't play. Now, obviously, it's a bit silly, but you get the point more than my dude. We need a right-sided Trossard. If the upper management believes that Havertz and Jesus are enough, I don't know. And even with Jesus, you get injured, which you are right now, boy, we're in issues. I think Arsenal will be willing to meet the release price for Nico Williams. I'm not sure he wants to move from Bilbao at this time. And that's it, Graham. Like, that's where we're at. Like, if we're going, as much as I would admire Arsenal for going after someone like that, if you go after him and you can't get him, like, valiant effort, but that's great. If you run away a race and don't win, yeah, big up yourself for competing, but you lost. With him, I would love to be wrong, but you've got to activate his release clause. So that means you got to pay it in full. I don't know if we got the finances to pay that in full. That's one. Obviously, them kind of, when you come out from Sociedad and Bilbao, we've seen it from Zubamendi, it feels like there's even more of an affiliation. For me, I think he wants to go Barcelona. I think he wants to wait the season with Bilbao and see what that's going to say next season. So you're wishing on a lot, really. So whereas essentially maybe a second choice. Now, you never know. And again, if you're him and you've got this affiliation to Bilbao, do you really want to leave them short without really having time to find a replacement? It's a bit like the Sesko thing in that people will say, oh, Arsenal, Man United, Chelsea all got rejected for Sesko. Nobody activated the release clause because there weren't enough encouragement from the individual that he wants to sign for whoever. the squad needs to be ready to play 50 plus games, boy. Is Trossard starting against Brighton? I'm not gonna lie, man. I'll always have a bias to Martinelli, but I don't think Trossard's put a foot wrong, and I do think people have been overdoing it with Martinelli's performances. But you know, if Trossard starts, which he deserves to, is what it is. And I must admit, one of my best moments last season. I know it was at their place, Brighton's ground, but it was to see Trossard score against his old club and celebrate. So I do think it probably should be Kai Havertz, Trossard, and Bukayo Saka, really. And to be honest with you, I do think Martinelli will start, but Martinelli, if there's any messing about, we've got City and Spurs after that. So you could win or lose your spot in the side. We simply do not have the depth to compete across all fronts. Martinelli has 32 goals in the league in 6 seasons, 20 goal contributions to 2 seasons ago. He's 23, whilst Coleman is 28 with 43 goals. His league in 10 seasons. I don't think we'll get Coleman, if I'm honest with you, but I was right. I didn't think we get Alexis Sanchez, didn't think we get Ozil, didn't think we get Bamian. So maybe I'm a positive omen. By spending 30 million on Raya and 40 on Calafiori, have we really approached this market wisely? Raya was not a necessary investment because he's not significantly clear of Ramsdale. I agree and disagree, because I do think to us, yeah, a goalie seemed the least of our worries, if I'm completely honest with you. You know, Ramsdale was improving, the defense was improving and whatnot, but I do think sometimes you have to improve what is not evidently clear. And if Raya takes us up a couple percentages, great. And I must admit, I don't want to get onto Ramsdale, but I like the way Raya talks a lot than Ramsdale. Ramsdale's dad speaking, Ramsdale's doing podcasts in a when we're fighting for a title. Again, I don't want to take his words out of context, but when you're hearing about keepers struggling to concentrate, it's not really good. I do think Raya is better, but I do agree that he's not necessarily clear of him. But if that's what Arteta wanted to do, that's what he wanted to do. If I'm completely honest with you, Calafiori, I slightly disagree, because I think he provides great depth, he provides great cover, he provides great options. Obviously, he's seen as one of the defenders of the future, and it was nice to get him. And we needed stability on that left-hand side. Again, with Timber being fit and Calafiori, you'd imagine them not playing. But with Zinchenko, with Timber's injury last season, there's someone else, Kivior's inconsistencies, there's defo someone else I'm missing out. We needed that, really. But you could make a wider question of, are we investing rightly? In which the club clearly reckon they do. Smash the likes. Garcia is a long-term investment. I hear it, especially with Raya being 28. I mean, he's 28, but he's a goalie, man. He's going to be here for a while. And that's my thing with Garcia. Check out the video I did on him. Now, obviously, he's quite inexperienced for a goalie. Yes, he's won for Spain at Olympics. He's doing his thing at Espanyol. But he hasn't actually played that much top-level games. And he's 23, and he's spoken about, when you read and listen to what them La Liga experts are saying, that he's seen as, I don't know for the level, but a keeper for the future. Now, he might, you know, such is the turnover with goalies, David Raya might one day meet the fate of Ramsdale. But how long is Mr. Garcia at 23 years of age content to be on the bench? Where at this moment in time, you sign for Arsenal. Of course, you don't want to sit on the bench, and you could take Raya's spot, but it's probably clear that you are going to be the second choice. You're not going to get that much first team football. So I have to see. I don't think we're getting a striker. Doesn't it appear that the club has to sell before they can buy a player? We've been hearing that, man. You know, we've been hearing that, and they've sold. Like, they've sold. And that didn't stop us with Mikel Merino. I mean, it didn't stop us with Calafiori, and they've sold. We heard Smith Rowe needed to go to bring in one. Then Smith Rowe left, and we was hearing it. I mean, the club knew what they needed to do. Several players have left. Really and truly, the vast majority of the players that needed to go are actually kind of gone when you deep it. Kivior is still here. Tierney is still here. Technically, Ramsdale's still here. There's progression there. Nelson, I don't know what's happened there, but he's still here. Fabio's cut on loan. Tavares is gone. Lokonga is gone. A couple of the young players, you know, the Brook Norton Coffees, the Charlie Patinos, the Mickey Berefs, these guys that weren't really going to get a look in, they're gone. We've actually done okay with outgoings. The fees and all of that is a completely different thing. But then again, do you reckon he's developing every stage of the field one by one, like our defense, then midfield, and maybe next season attack low key? That's what it looks like to me. That could be a thing, but the reality is, Arteta come out and said, don't be happy at the end of the season. Don't be happy. We're trying to win this. We're trying to do that. You need players for now. You need things for now. And again, I agree, but I disagree, because what? You signed David Raya, you signed Timber, you signed Declan Rice. Those are three evident kind of different signings in different areas. So how far does that go? I do think there's logic in that, though. I think the window is a 5. Getting an attacker makes it a 7. A bad boy attacker makes it an 8. Everyone complaining about Garcia's signing. Remember, his release clause is 30 million euros. We want competition for places. In order to do that, you need to strengthen in depth. I agree, I don't really think his sign is a strength in depth. Obviously, if we don't sign a backup goalie, we're weaker, but it's Ramsdale out, and next one in, really, if I'm honest. And even how far does that go? You're getting 18 million up front, 25 million potentially, or just over that for Ramsdale. You're spending 20 to 30 million euros on Garcia. How far is the finances and the selling to bring people in really going? DJ, if Odegaard gets injured, he'll play number 10. Fabio is no more there. For me, I'd love to see young Ethan, but he's developing. I imagine if it was a must-win Premier League game, probably if Gabriel Jesus is fit, you could put him there, to be fair. But I think Gabriel Jesus goes up front. Kai Havertz goes in the 10, purely because, of course, Kai Havertz cannot talk to Odegaard on the ball, but off the ball, he probably mimics that. You do have the option of Leandro Trossard in there. Beyond that, boy, do you just cancel the 10 thing and just go with 3 midfielders outright with Merino, Rice, and Partey, or Jorginho, or something of that ilk? I'm not sure. Yes, DG, I'm personally a fan of the new Champions League format, but we are going to need a deeper squad to compete. Definitely need to play the kids in the League Cup. These bodies were not being used. Don't think it's a hindrance. Only issue is the attack, and possibly if Odegaard gets injured. We cannot underestimate the signing of Calafiori and Merino. I don't think you can. I just think what's going to go against them is people are wondering where's the attack or what's going on there. So it's almost like it's overshadowed. And then that's what I mean. It feels like we do 5 good things right. There was 5 more evident areas of improvement. So it's like we've done some good, we've done some bad. I don't think in the last few windows that we've been like, yes, we've done amazing. Don't get twisted. When we signed Gabriel Jesus and Zinchenko, I was a fan of that. You know, when we signed what we did last summer, I was a fan of that. What we've done so far, I'm a fan of it. But it just feels like there's more to do. It's like, we've done 80% of the work. What about the other 20? I don't know, though, man. Big up, DJ. I feel like we still need at least 2 players, a backup goalkeeper and a forward. I'm thinking Gyökeres and Garcia. I mean, for me, the Tonys, the Gyökereses, the strikers, I've given up on that, man. I think we're more likely to try and move the needle for a winger. I mean, what do I know? I want to be wrong. And whether it's a striker, a winger, or both, I'm with that, man. Just get it done, man. Like, we need it. Extremely disappointing summer, considering the whole point was supposed to be that we improved depth. Instead, we lost bodies in key areas and not replaced them. And for me, we're going to see certain publications come out with the think pieces of how we tried to do things, just like off the back of last season, how we're going to be bullish in the market and the PR is going to get out there. I get Aderinga, to be honest. He can play both sides. Also, even if we got Nico Williams, we ain't guaranteed the league, but it helps it way better. I don't think we was ever going to get Williams anyways. Neither do I. And I mean, the Brighton lad would be great, but even that, you know, Brighton, difficult to do business with. That man's a key player. They probably got the replacement sorted, such as, you know, the revolving door and the great scouting that Brighton do, but they're going to have to find a replacement and you're going to have to pay a premium. I don't want to say we're desperate, but we are kind of desperate. You've got 24 hours, if that, to get something done. So it's a techie. It's very techie, man, if I'm honest. DG, hope you're well. It seems Arteta is more willing to take chances on players in other positions than forward. It was Sesko / Williams or Nada. I kind of understand, to be fair, long-term view. It's great for the long-term view, but like, let's try and win something, man. And I hear you. Tired of the Tony talk, not saying from this channel in particular. Oh, fair enough. But smash the like button, subscribe if you haven't. But everyone kicking up a fuss about the club signing him. If he was wanted, we would have already been signed. And I agree with that, man, because out of all of the strikers, apart from Sesko and the release clause business, which in hindsight he probably wasn't as available, Tony's been talking. Any platform that he's able to speak, he says he wants to go. He's been left out of the 2 match day squads. He's been available. Now, maybe it was a thing where, maybe not necessarily including Arsenal, but everybody was trying to assess other targets, and Tony was a safety net. They knew they could circle back because he's still being linked with Chelsea and United. But I agree, if Tony was wanted, then we probably would have got him. And when we was linked with him in January very aggressively, if you don't remember, it seemed like we were going to make a move for him. We was dotting I's and crossing T's. Then it came out, allegedly, we're not convinced on him for whatever reason that is. So I just think Tony's just easy to link with us, man. So, yeah, it is what it is. You say Edu and Arteta know more about football than us, yet they haven't prioritized a striker signing when everyone could see what's been missing for years, which is true. And that's me as a fan. But I mean, unless anybody's been an invincible in Edu's case or played for Arsenal and come through La Masia like Mikel Arteta, or worked around the City players like Mikel Arteta, or managed the Premier League game, they do know more than us. Now, I don't think they're stupid. I think they're trying to do things. But that's where my criticism comes in. My job, obviously, I've got empathy and sympathy and I try to be balanced, but I don't really care. it's like if we lose a game, of course, if we've played well and we've lost, there's context behind it. But it's a results-driven business. Are you going to win or lose? We need to win in the transfer market. It's evidently clear what we needed to improve. It's us as, that's why I agree with you. If us as just neutral fans can see this, them lot could see it. Now, I don't know what Edu and Arteta have tried. Maybe they've tried to get in this player, that player. Maybe there's certain other factors that, are not available to us that have changed their decision or kind of have some reason behind why they're doing what they're doing and we're at where we're at. I don't know, but boy, it is what it is. We've got a squad to compete in all comps. That's an excuse to not try to win domestics. The bare minimum is 2 domestic cups and challenging this season. If we are empty-handed again, Lord help me, we need a striker. Watched Atletico versus Espanyol yesterday. Garcia was solid. I like what I saw. I'm convinced Arteta was peed at Ramsdale's concentration comments. I'm sure Arteta felt that if a striker heard those comments in takes a bit of mental pressure on a striker and gives them confidence. To be fair with you, I just think Raya was a market opportunity. That was the guy he wanted before he got Aaron Ramsdale. He clearly thinks he's better than Aaron Ramsdale. He wouldn't play, and he probably does like his focus and things. Now, at the time, I did think it was a bit harsh to Ramsdale. New deal, PFA nominations, title challenge. But if Raya is the guy, that's the guy. As much as I love Bukayo Saka, and I'm exaggerating, if there is a player available that is twice the ability of Bukayo Saka and Arteta wants to get that done and Saka is going to play significantly less football, only an idiot wouldn't want that to be done. It makes us a competitive squad. So I'm happy with it. And as I said earlier, as much as it weren't probably clear to sign a striker, a goalkeeper, this is what Arteta's paid to do. Define margins where there's none and improve us in areas that it's not evidently clear. Because everyone can see, yeah, you get a striker that can do what our existing options can do, plus score goals, we're laughing. If there was an ex-Saliba or Gabriel or someone that takes it up even further, he needs to make those difficult decisions. And I think Arteta's done that. He's brought in Raya. I don't think Kai Havertz is the be-all and end-all, but it's fair to say the talking around Kai Havertz is a lot better than what it was. Even when we brought in Benjamin White and Ramsdale, mind you, it's very different. But keeping Granit Xhaka when the whole world wanted him to leave, this is the kind of things Arteta has to do. I'd rather a striker / forward than an out-and-out striker. But yeah, I don't think the comments with Ramsdale helps. I do think, not necessarily influencing decisions, but I do think that Ramsdale's talking too much probably pees off people at Arsenal Football Club. Don't forget, people, at 5 p.m. we will be watching the Champions League draw together. Nawari would be brilliant for the attacker instead of a winger. Fans complain about Academy getting a chance. Listen, I'm confident about Ethan. I don't want him to... Obviously, you're never ready to play first-team football. And at the end of the day, you're coming through where we're trying to aspire to win stuff. But I don't want us to have to live or die by his performances like Saka. I do think Ethan could get good chances field provided certain things happen. I think he's a better option than Fabio Vieira there now, despite his young age. Obviously, I think with the Smith Rowe and Nelson out wide kind of stuff, and even Fabio, I think there's minutes for him to have there. But I still think we need someone ready for now, man. But you are right. Rating this window as a 6.5 out of 10. Good sales and loans for the outgoings with top talent coming in, promoting more Haaland players in Ethan and potentially MLS. We still need a wide player. I mean, I'm not going to include the young players being promoted because how far does the promotion go? I think Ethan's probably promoted. I wouldn't quite say Lewis Skelly is at this moment in time. I expect him to be on the bench and whatnot, but he's still playing for the 21s. And I just wouldn't include that because they're at the club already, essentially. I do think the loans have been mixed, more good than bad, as you said there. I do think we've done good in sales, but then for every good sell, there is one where I think, oh, could we have done better? But fans are always going to say that. And the big one is, I understand that you went for a strike, you didn't get it. I don't want us to sign players just for the sake of it. We've been there and done that. But I do think it's a massive crime if we don't introduce an inside forward, man. Would you take Sterling on loan? To be honest, yes and no. No, because I don't want to, like, we're not a daycare for, we're not a daycare. We need to stop buying these damaged goods. But if the loan makes sense, you take on some of his wages and a loan fee and he makes the difference. At the end of the day, the man's a Premier League, a household name in the Premier League. He's been doing it since 16, 17. People can say what they want about Raheem Sterling. He's got the silverware to prove it. And you look at a couple of our recruits and even some that we bought that have won stuff for their countries, there's an appetite for trophies now, really. Jorginho, Kai Havertz, Declan Rice, Gabriel Jesus, Zinchenko, Mikel Merino. He's won something with Sociedad, Sterling. There's that appetite for trophies and winning mentality and all of that kind of jazz. I'm here for it, man. Will you be live on deadline day? But if there's something to talk about, why not? We have so many games, fear Saka might get fully burnt out. I hear it, but at the same time, as much as I think we need someone to rotate in for Saka, this is the dynamics, football. there's a wider conversation to have about the amount of games that are being played in football and player welfare, which, let's be honest, the decision makers that be don't give a flying monkeys, because there's hella pointless friendlies. Even pre-seasons become a bit pointless to a slight degree as well, if I'm honest with you. But this is the degree. The majority of the players play 50 odd games and whatnot. And if Saka's rehabilitation and rest week in, week out is being done, then fair enough. But that being said, of course, burnout is a serious thing to consider. We've got a Champions League game between Spurs and City away, and another between Chelsea and Newcastle away. How have the club left us so short? And this is where, again, Etu, I would love him up front. Mikel Arteta, you knew what we was going into this season like last, man. I don't even know what long term is anymore. We got told we'd get a forward in the future last summer and last Jan. The goalpost keeps getting moves, and that is something. 4 out of 10 window, no winger, no striker, no top six. Bit harsh, not to say top six. Not sold Nelson, Lokonga, Tavares, Vieira. We've seen weaker. To be fair, Tavares is essentially gone. Lokonga, yes, it's an option. Vieira needed to probably go out on loan. So yeah, man. No hopes of top 4 if no winger or striker. Our squad depth is still thin. I mean, I'm a bit. I do think we're shooting for top 4 again. I will look silly if it gets clipped up, but unless a madness happens, I think we're doing all right. That's why you sign versatile players that can fill in when needed. I hear it. Havertz, Trossard, Merino could play Odegaard. Oh, Merino in the 10. Ooh, scary. DJ, let's be honest. We've done nothing to address the lack of skill sets in our attack, ball striking, 1v1 pace, and done nothing to handle the tactical issue we face in mid-blocks. They failed. To be fair, I think last season we arrested mid-blocks because we seemed to be able to break them down. We found a way to do it against Aston Villa, if I'm honest with you. But in terms of personnel, maybe we could have had more. Wenger and Dean also knew better than us. Does that help at all? I mean, Arteta isn't in this position. We're not selling Eddie Nketiah, Reece Nelson, potentially Smith Rowe, and all of these players out the academy. If it wasn't for Wenger, we're not looking at that stadium. If it wasn't for him, we wouldn't have half of these legends, if it wasn't for David Dean. So yeah, it doesn't mean just because they know more about us that they're always right. I'm not saying because Eddie and Mikel Arteta know more about football than us, then that we just accept everything. We're allowed to have our opinions. But that's my point. If us can see this, what are they saying? Best striker option is Gyökeres. Coleman had 5 significant injuries. Who is he going to bench? He might be better than Nelly, but what will Trossard say? To be fair, Trossard's a baller, but I don't think any player in this squad could say anything if players come in. Just show the manager that he was wrong to sign him and keep him on the bench. Watching in my cab, big up the black cab driver. Shout yourself in a circle, man. Appreciate the consistent support, man. Even is 17. How many minutes can he be expected to play? Far too many out on loan. They need to be sold. I hear that. I heard something about Sterling being spotted at Arsenal's training ground a few days ago. I did see that image. It looked like he was at Hale End versus Arsenal's actual training ground. I don't know what for, but it is going to add fuel to the fire. I don't want any of these wingers who are nearly 30 and ain't getting much better. Brighton, Liverpool has a style of play already. The mastermind Ten Hag doesn't. Mark Goldbridge doesn't spread the truth. He spreads his opinion based that most people with a brain don't agree with. Yeah, man. Big up Mark, man. Big up Mark, man. But yeah, I don't know what's going on there. As upset as I am with the window, I also feel on the flip side, there's no one out there that really excites me as an attacking option. Khalid, I hear that, but that's not our job. These lot need to go and find that, because when the season's played, there's going to be someone popping up somewhere that we're all watching and thinking, what's going on? They've got to come from somewhere. We're linked with Kudus. We were linked. He's come from somewhere. Aderinga come from somewhere. Lookman come from somewhere. Like, you can find these duns. And even more so because, yeah, you cannot. We are in that situation where I think we need to sign players you can evidently see improve us, as I think with California and Moreno. But look at when we signed half of these players, they weren't necessarily known entities. Like, people that were watching Bologna knew about California, same with Tomiyasu. Benjamin White had 1 season of Premier League football. Ramsdale, people were screaming back-to-back relegation. Yeah, Saliba was a golden boy. Took him a while to get in the team. Gabriel, fair enough. He was fairly known. Nobody wanted Kai Havertz. Odegaard, people wanted Buendia, and people wanted to see the back of Odegaard after that first 6 months on loan. It's fair to say he's done all right. Jorginho, a lot of people didn't give him a chance. Trossard, many people could see he was a baller and a good player and a good addition, but obviously, and hindsight's wonderful. When you're linked with Mudryk and all the fanfare that was going around that, Trossard was an alternative. Thank the Lord it's worked out. So they have made unpopular signings and decisions that have been okay, really. But we need to see that now, man. We really need to see that. We really need to see that, man. I mean, I want to see... I've got high hopes for Ethan, but at the same time, I don't want to put in terms of winning the league and all of these things, and I don't want him. I want him to be excluded from that pressure. Of course, collectively, that's what we're trying to do. He's part of it, but he's a young man. Really, it's a step in the right direction. Maybe because of the lack of personnel, you've now been on the bench, but you've done well. And Arteta's basically said it's down to you. And obviously, some Lenders have left. I'd love Ethan to play well. Maybe you get that 10 shirt next season because the 10's free, the 14's free. Hey, any half-decent striker would ball out Arsenal. The amount of creativity we have with Odegaard, Trossard and Saka, even Bentner and Giroud would get 15 to 20 goals in this team. Giroud would. I don't know for Bentner. I think you're forgetting Bentner was shit. Like, proper dead. I didn't mean top 6 in the league. I mean a top 6 for the team. Sorry, my bad. Merino's not a 6. Bit harsh. Can play as an 8 or a 6. Poor window. If you had the intention of going to the next level, but this window smacks of status quo, I can't disagree with the second part of that, man. There are actually so much better forward options this summer than usual as well, bro. And this is where the club have to make it happen, man. Big up, DJ. I don't like to see the rumours of us getting dried up players who can't score goals or make a significant impact. Enough of this saving players thing. It isn't good for Arsenal. Again, I don't want us to be a rehabilitation centre. Like, we're becoming a rehab. You know, if it works, great. But I guess I just want players, man. Like, I just want players, man. I just want a winger. I genuinely thought we might make something happen in that regards. Ultimately, it wasn't to be or isn't to be at this moment in time. The club still can... Oh, have we frozen? We frozen here? Oh, we're back. Sorry, my screen froze. Ultimately, the club can prove us wrong, but just over 24 hours in it. And again, people, with that being said, keep your thoughts coming. Let's see exactly what the rumours are saying in relation to our football club, if my screen will share. We went over that already. What have we got here? Ramsdale is currently undergoing a medical at Southampton ahead of his transfer from Arsenal. You would have seen in the last couple of hours that obviously Aaron Ramsdale is close to completing a permanent move to Southampton, which 3 relegations on his CV would be crazy. Apparently, we've got a sell-on clause. He's joining for 25 million. And obviously, we gave him a new contract, so he's on big wages. The deal will see Arsenal receive 18 million up front alongside 1 million should Southampton avoid relegation this season. So best case scenario, by May, we should have 19 million for Aaron Ramsdale with the remaining 6 based on incentives. What those incentives are, whether that's staying in the league, Ramsdale getting X amount of clean sheets or winning awards at Southampton, getting capped for his country, I don't know. Again, I understand why Ramsdale went at a discount because he's not the Aaron Ramsdale he was prior to Raya coming in. But I'm not going to stop saying this. And I just want to know, whatever you have to say about Aaron Ramsdale, when he signed for this football club to right now when he looks set to depart, is he a better or worse goalkeeper? I think he's better. Could we have at least made our 30 million back? And also at the same time, you'd imagine when we signed him from Sheffield United or whoever, they probably have a sell-on clause of their... Oh, God, something's in my eye. They probably have a sell-on clause of their own in his deal. So how much are we really getting? I guess on the balance sheet, it looks good. And I genuinely think the Cronkies have probably said to Edu and those in charge that we need to get a move on with sales and we need to begin to change the narrative around this football club where sales are concerned. But for what it's worth, he's set to join Southampton on a 4-year deal with the option of a further year, people. We all know he's falling down the pecking order. And apparently Arsenal will now advance their efforts to sign 23-year-old Espanyol goalkeeper, Mr. Garcia. Again, we've agreed a 25 million deal for Aaron Ramsdale. David Ornstein has provided one update. Romano's provided another. He has said Arsenal submit 20 million euro package bid for Garcia as new goalkeeper to replace Aaron Ramsdale. Agents Juanma Lopez and Andy Barra bring the proposal to Espanyol worth 20 million euros, add-ons included. Espanyol asks for the 30 million clause. Apparently, Garcia has agreed personal terms with Arsenal and wants Arsenal now. Naturally, there's going to be some negotiation in business. Espanyol want a bit more, Arsenal want to pay a bit less. He's got a 30 million release clause, and it's getting late in the window. So Espanyol are going to want a replacement. How much are Espanyol going to want to do business? Are they going to say, you know what, we're not here for negotiations. You put the money down, you have the player, our hands are tied. He's got a release clause. If not, go find your alternatives or pee off, essentially. I'm not sure. I read performance-related incentives. In that case, it can't be relegation. It probably avoiding relegation. Spending 20-something million on a backup keeper is crazy. I think you lot are doing a bit too much with that. Like 20 million on a backup keeper. I mean, Liverpool have just went and bought my man from Valencia and loaned him back. I don't see anything wrong with it personally. I do understand if people are saying where are we finding 30 million for a backup goalie and we haven't signed an inside forward, even though we need to address both. But I personally, again, nobody's right, no one's wrong. But I think you lot are doing a lot, if I'm honest with you. You lot acting like we're spending Allison money on another goalie. I understand, Arteta's signed a lot of goalkeepers and a lot of defenders, but I think you lot are doing a lot, people. Again, keeping up the theme with Garcia, Arsenal have to negotiate a deal with Espanyol to secure the Spaniard services. The La Liga side aren't willing to negotiate and currently refer to his 30 million release clause. If Espanyol were to stand firm, Mundo state the English club could activate the clause, which again, I think that is the case, people. Apparently, the manager of Espanyol said, I can't do anything. If a team comes and pays the clause, I'm very happy that he's here. I think he will continue. But if a team comes and plays the clause, I can't do anything. For now, I'm happy that he's here at his level. It's a luxury to have him here. Boy, fair enough. And he said, I don't think he's going to come out. If I have to eat it, I'll eat it. Pause. I think he won't come out, not because he doesn't have the level, but because there's a 30 million clause that has to be paid, which has to be paid up front as well. I will not try to let him go, and I can't say anything more. I'm very happy with him. To be fair, what more can the manager say? Again, Ramsdale is undergoing his medical, as we've gone over. I don't know if it's true, but Arsenal have been linked with Openda, people, the Belgian forward. I don't know if we're able to do that or if there's any legitimacy in that, but I think many people would like a versatile attacker and a striker or both. We've gone over the Ramsdale stuff already. And again, people, James Benji said, Arsenal and Southampton have agreed a deal for Aaron Ramsdale, an initial 18 million that could rise to 25. And I think a bit of that, which maybe I'm being a bit harsh because I don't think gentlemen need, I know we do things on the gentleman stuff, but I think we're kind of sympathetic to Aaron Ramsdale for who he is, for what he's done to the club, for his attitude. We're more of saying, you know what, Ramsdale, we'll take a hit because we don't think it's fair to you to leave, to have to stay and do this another season on the bench, which for me, could we have got more money? I don't want to be that guy, but if the same situation with Aaron Ramsdale happens at another club, I think they at least make their 30 million back. I'm not sure, man. If I'm not mistaken, there was a sell-on clause of 15% on Ramsdale in the case Arsenal would ever sell him for 19 million or more. I think that might be the reason for the 18 million. If that's true, then that's a good point, really and truly. Fair enough. Again, we've allegedly submitted an offer, people. Let's see if we've missed anything else out. No, I don't think we have. We're going to get into that. Arsenal eye up last-minute move for Bayern Munich star Kingsley Coman with the Gunners facing competition from Saudi Arabia. Come on, Kingsley, sign for us. We tried to sign you when you was a teenager. We've got the French ties. You know what Mikel Arteta is doing. At this point, I'm having Kingsley Coman. I think he's a quality player. I think he's an experienced player. I think you can see his silverware. It speaks for itself and the things he's done and won. I'm sure he scored in the Champions League final. The only thing that scares me is big wages. Is he going to deliver? And also injuries. You know, Kingsley Coman has a rich history of injuries. Is he going to stay fit? The best trait you can have is being available. But for what it's worth, Arsenal have explored a swoop for Bayern Munich winger Kingsley Coman ahead of Friday's deadline. Arteta wants a forward as he looks to add greater competition in wide attacking areas. Coman could leave Bayern this week and has major interest from Saudi Arabia, in particular Al Hilal. But Coman's situation has alerted the Gunners heading into the final hours of the window. The cost of bringing Coman to the Emirates will be key towards any successful move, particularly given the lucrative wages on offer in the Middle East. His agent did come out and quash those, but it's down to your motivation. Now, at 28, winning what you've won for club and country, I'm sure you've won something for France. I could be wrong. Do you want to come to Arsenal and be part of this project and play in the Premier League, or do you want to get paid? I don't think you're right or wrong for doing whatever you want in that regards, but we'll have to see. He currently earns 300k per week. He's going to be one of the top earners, really. So again, I don't really care what people get paid as long as they do the job, but are Arsenal going to go for that? He has got 3 years left on his deal. Apparently, there are some doubts over whether Arsenal would pay Coman the same level salary, which may leave them at a disadvantage. But hey, so what are we saying? A bit like when we're linked with Raheem Sterling, is it a loan and we take it from there? I'm not too sure. Again, we apparently plan to trigger the release clause of Garcia should negotiations stall. Garcia is all that there seems to be, people, where Arsenal's concerned. And we were linked with the Wigan guy as well. We've gone over that already as well. Boy, Garcia, I was really trying to talk about Garcia today. There we go. Arsenal exploring a deal to sign Wigan Athletic goalkeeper Sam Tickle, age 22. The club have been seeking a goalkeeper with homegrown status to join the first team, with Tickle along with Wolves' Dan Bentley now under consideration. At 22, just made your England under-21s debut. Respectfully to Wigan, Arsenal come cool and come and listen, innit, what we're doing. But first team football at 22, you're going to be behind that Garcia lad. You're going to be behind David Raya. You was voted, I think, Wigan's player of the season last year, and you're getting games, minutes, or currency. If we can get him, great. And who knows? You might, I would, I don't know. I would love Garcia and Tickle to be of the ability where they might even take Raya's spot because there's more competition. But how much is a 22 and a 23-year-old going to sit on the bench for how many years? I don't know, people. But that's just something to think about. John Crosser said, Arsenal's chances of landing number one choice Nico Williams have all but gone, but others might pop up. Others have to pop up, really. We ain't got much of a choice, people. Arsenal iron potential move for Simon Adringa of Brighton. Kaya of Football London, big him up, has said we might have a look at him, people. Again, it's going to cost a lot of money. And to be fair, Mitoma wouldn't be bad. This guy's a baller, man. Apparently, 50 million seems like it could be the asking price. I mean, why not, man, at this moment in time? But it is what it is. Arsenal have also been linked with Dominic Calvert-Lewin, which I've discussed at length. He could be available at a cut price. To be fair, he could be a good rotationary option. Stocks have fallen, gets injuries. How much is these links legit? Because he's got a year left on his deal. I don't know where we go from there with that, people. Do we go for someone like Zaha? Apparently, a return to the Premier League has been all but ruled out due to tax issues. Darwin Núñez was linked with Arsenal. I think that's been squashed as just media reports and just nonsense. But Darwin Núñez was linked with Arsenal Football Club. And I've only seen this guy on YouTube, people, this Nepang guy, this Norwegian lad, the 17-year-old, but he seems quite decent. And maybe Odegaard can put in a word. Arsenal want to get into the polka of signing 17-year-old midfielder Napandi, I can't pronounce it, all of that with the greatest of respect. After the end of the current window, Arsenal are planning talks with Rosenberg and want to sign him in January of 2025. You'd imagine he turns 18 by then, and great for the long term, but you don't help us at least for a good period of the season. And I'm sure many Arsenal fans really and truly don't care about what we're trying to do in January. Adding fuel to the fire of the Kingsley Coleman rumours, some of you would have seen allegedly an unnamed Premier League club have explored the conditions of a deal for Kingsley Coleman. Again, distance all of us from signing, distance Arsenal from signing Darwin Núñez. Doesn't appear there's anything. Thomas Partey apparently won't be offered a new contract. I think we all knew that. Reece Nelson is still being linked with Fulham. I mean, 20 million could be right up our street. Crystal Palace and Arsenal are prepared to sign all the documents today for the Eddie Nketiah deal. 25 million fixed fee plus 5 million added. So really and truly, to a degree, Eddie Nketiah's fee kind of pays for Garcia's release clause if it gets to that. So we're going to have to see. And Arsenal versus Bolton will be the case in the Kat Yarabal third round, people. Apparently, we're scheduled to face them at the Emirates, commencing the 23rd of September. So we'll have to see. And I'm sure Sam Allardyce will be tuned in there in that one. But yeah, that seems to be that. True, but now we only have Nelson. The Norwegian lad is a good talent. Let's see him develop for a couple of seasons. He's great for the long term. Man said, brother, to Dominic Calvert-Lewin. We should have just kept Koza Dewberry, perfect backup for Saka. By that time, we should have signed Koza Dewberry to a new contract way before that, because by that time he said, you know what, Brighton got a plan for me. I'm going to get opportunities at Brighton. They're loaning me out. I'm gone, really. So, yeah, our hands were tied owing to us not renewing him. But yeah, where you look at that, he could have probably been satin in that regards, man. So it is what it is. Well, go on, DG. I see you got your voice back after Carnival. Who? I didn't go Carnival. What's that? Don't know what that is, man. We need a striker. If we get a Pender over the line, it's a 9 out of 10 window. But again, anyone can talk about news and stuff, but it's all fun and games being linked with Osimhen and Pender and all of these guys. I ain't seen David Ornstein or Romano really and truly say anything. So again, how far does it go? I'm not saying they're the oracles and they're the only ones in the know, but yeah, if this Garcia guy is good, then 20 mil is fair. But I have my doubts. Damn, fair enough. I mean, he won't be the first or the last player to have doubts. Just got to prove you and everybody wrong, really. In 3 years, Raya may move on for a big fee and Garcia, our new starter, brought in for 20 million. I'm guessing they're looking far ahead along with the current need. That's probably the case. But it would be nice to not always do this keeper merry-go-round. If there is something of significance to stream on deadline day, rest assured I'll be there. But there's also been a couple of deadline days where nothing is happening for Arsenal, man. It's crazy. We need a striker. Bring in Jonathan David because he's young and cheap. Nah, he's not for me. I believe Arteta will turn him into a dangerous striker. Another striker is Openda. He's cheap and young. I don't know if Openda would be cheap, but I'd rather that. Imagine we get Aderinga now and Nico next year. That would be crazy. Nico Williams and Trossard on one side and Saka and Aderinga on the right. Way the dream is free, the hustle is sold separately. So happy for Sancho because Anthony/Ahmad isn't great. To be fair with you, Ahmad's decent. Ten Hag will most likely be sacked before the end of the season based on the poor football and the horrible results. That would be reality this season. For me, Eric Ten Hag's the best manager in the Premier League. I'm so scared that Manchester United have him. They need to trust the process, man. They really do. He's doing great things. He's so good, so good. The things I see Ten Hag do, you could argue Pep Guardiola, Mikel, Arteta couldn't do. And I think Manchester United are on the verge of something great. And I think Ten Hag deserved that new contract. I mean, in recent years, he's won two trophies, so he speaks for himself. So good, so good. Jonathan David is like when you're trying to grab anything after a failed night, brother. When they're risen up 6 out of 10s, man. Beer goggles. I'm a bit confused about how aggressively we seem to go for Sesko. We're here on deadline then. Everything seems indecisive. If Arsenal really wanted a forward by now, we would have got one. You got your Champions League group predictions. No, but I'm live at 4:50, and I'll get that done by then. I haven't, because it's the new kind of computerized thing, and I think it's a bit different in that I think the fixtures are announced on Saturday. And yeah, we're actually there's like 8 teams in one group, so I'll be keen to see exactly how that's gonna go, if I'm honest with you, man. So yeah, it'd be difficult. But listen, people, I hope that we are proven wrong by Arsenal. As usual, it's a pleasure to be here and talk with you lot. Make sure you're following both of my YouTube channels. Appreciative to you lot. If there's any other news, watch alongs and live streams and things of that ilk come, will be released on my channel. I think I'm live on Troops' channel with Dan Potts at 2 p.m. So check that out. I'm going to go and get some lunch, some late lunch. No, it's not even late lunch. That's an exaggeration. But for me, it's a late lunch. So yeah, people, if you've missed this, run it all the way back and offer your opinions. One love to everyone who's hit the like button. Big up the Twitch ones as well. I'm back at 4:50, 10 minutes before the start of the Champions League draw. So yeah, I'll see you lot then. On that note, peace. Always